Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. So nice to see everybody. As you can see, I'm assuming Tom's identity this afternoon. Tom sends his regards and says hello to everybody, but he's not going to make it for the session. But really, really wonderful to see you all. Just want to say welcome. I'm going to hand you over to Alberto shortly, who most of you know really, really well. And quickly also just want to say that Alberto, I'm sure you guys know this, but he's released some amazing music over the course of the last couple of weeks. Some Chopin etudes that, I know, because I think, we're more used to classical music than we think. If you don't naturally listen to it, you've heard it somewhere before. And it was really amazing to hear him performing it, and definitely new appreciation for that type of music and for Al. And if you haven't checked out his recent album as well, his original album, North of the River, highly recommend that you do that. That's on Spotify. But take it away, Al, and enjoy.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see you, all of you. I see very familiar faces already. Um, yes, it's about time. Will be a quick 1 hour ride into the marvels of musical time. I must say that the title that I gave initially was a bit more serious, but I submitted to Tom, and Tom says, "Well, let's change it into a pun. Why not? We all know how Tom is is fond of word puns. Anyway, it's about time we start. So I decided, since I haven't been performing for a long time, to take this opportunity for a show. Will be a whole PowerPoint show. How about that? So anyway, let's dive into it. So today we're gonna look at what is musical time, and we're gonna look at the role of time in music, its importance, why it's so key to understand music. And the more we look into it, we realize there is a quite a complex phenomenon. It's very difficult to point out its dimension clearly, and we're gonna attempt that. At the same time, we're gonna come up with clear, definitive definitions of musical terms that relate to time, and make some clarity over that. And hopefully, we'll be able to even point out at how they originated into our musical notation system. In the second part, we will go and look at some useful, effective guides for performers to manage the variety of time signatures, and we will go obviously into many practical examples. On the right of this picture, you should know that this is an actual score. You might have seen this before. It's from a composer called Terry Riley. This is a keyboard etude. I can't perform it, I'm afraid, but this is an actual score. And by the way, let me just, yes, now I feel completely in PowerPoint control over here. All right, so how important is time in music? Well, music changes our emotion, it challenges our perception, it suggests visions, it suggests images, tells us a story. Music affects the way time flows, and the way we flow with time. So in a certain way, music does have an effect on the way time is structured, and it does it through repetition of sound, acoustic events that somehow create the sense that there is a recurrency and uh, and, uh, and so in a sense we can say that time is the matter of music. But wait, many of you are thinking, well, the matter of music, if color is the matter of visual art and movement is the matter of dance, sound is the matter of music. Well, yes, but sound is the matter of all acoustic phenomenon or any noise. So what this differentiates noise or any indistinct sound from music is obviously that sound is organized in time. So this time dimension is quite meaningful. So what do we mean by musical time? We mean a variety of things. First of all, dimension that you're all very familiar with, time signatures. Although I'm pretty sure that some of you are thinking, well, I'm very familiar with some of them, but some other are just a mystery. We're gonna try to clear the way today. What is a time signature and why sometimes they're so complicated? And there is also this dimension of time, which is if we look at the pulse, a consistent pulse, well, that somehow describe something about time. For example, um, it relates it relates to time in the sense that it tells us whether the events occurring are fast or slow. And you see how these two images on the side relate to each other. One is a consistent note, undistinguished recurring even note. And at the bottom, you see a pulse. It could be a heart rate or something. So this idea, this dimension of time that described here is unrelated virtually to the one before the time signature one. We also see that time is relates to this other dimension, which is the tempo. Tempo can be fast, medium, and slow, but also can be many more accurate and precise ways. And you see here Italian ways of describing tempo in music and their English translation. So tempo markings describe a third dimension of time. Also, we see this happening on any musical score. That, of course, when we talk about time values, we describe how long this symbol make a note last, longer or shorter. But these are, of course, not absolute values. These are proportionate values. So it's another complication that we can never really be sure whether a note lasts, I don't know, a second, 2 seconds, half a second, how much? There is no answer for that. It's all relative, it's all proportions. Now, another dimension could be the rhythm. It's a dimension in which sound events occur in time, and you can have a variety of events, a variety of sounds, and they occur at the same time, but each one is heterogeneous. So each one is different. So uh, you might even have a feeling that things occur at a different time. So, for example, in this case, you have four parts. They all occur at the same time, but given that the rhythm is different, you might have the perception that four things go at slightly for different speeds. And then we have musical cases in which, like in the rests, in which music happens, but there is no sound event, there is no pulse that tells us what's the tempo. So it's kind of an absence of time, although there is music, there is a rest. So even there is nothing to hear, but still we're still in the music. So time can occur without any sound event. On the right side, we have this symbol that, which I'm sure many of you are familiar, is the fermata, and is meant to instruct the performer to just hold on the sound for as long as they want, or sometimes even hold on a rest for as long as they want, which means that it's kind of a interruption of time. You just stop the time and the performer decide how long this will be. No pulse, no event, just that. In both cases, we are witnessing an absence of time. Another example could be the thing called polyrhythms. In this situation, you see two staffs, and you see in the top line you see 8 notes in a bar, while in the bottom you see 12 notes in the same bar, which might suggest that the top part having less events than the bottom is lower. So, and of course the bottom being faster, which even might suggest that in the same piece you have two different speeds occurring. This actually is quite common for pianists, because how often do your right and left hand play exactly the same thing? Not very often, which means that at any given time your right and left hand do go about and play things in slightly different times. And this is, of course, something related to coordination, but something related to perception. We perceive different speeds. And last but not least, let's look at these things. This is an example of rubato. Rubato is a musical example that we kind of all know what it is about, but it relates to when time somehow stretches a bit, goes from a linear pulse where we can set all the distances and the beats, to a time where actually things are slightly more flexible. So in this case, you see this is from a Chopin nocturne, and you have in the top line you have 11 notes against 6. I mean, it's a mathematical conundrum to figure out how exactly they're gonna match together. But this is perhaps not the way to go. Perhaps Chopin is telling us, let these 11 notes run in a musical way. So even more difficult will be the bottom one with 22 notes. I mean, this is something that should suggest this idea that time can be musical while not necessarily be defined by consistent pulses. So also below you see accelerando, ritardando, two typical cases in which the time is flexible. Slows down, or speeds up. So yes, so all of this dimension describe a very complex phenomenon, and we're gonna try to make a little bit of clarity over this, because things are very very difficult, very complicated. Do you agree? Yes or no? That's me, by the way, maybe in a few years. Okay, let's start from the very beginning. The question is, how do we measure time? But of course, the answer is, well, seconds, minutes, hours, days. But let's go before that, even before that. I know I'm taking it large, but you'll see why. How do we measure time if we didn't have seconds, minutes, and clocks and watches? Well, is there any moment in our life in which we encounter a beat, a pulse that we can relate to? Of course, heart rate. We are familiar with that. We know what it means when it speeds up. We know what it means when it slows down. Also, when we walk, we hear the sound of our steps, and depending on our motion, depending on our coordination, we hear them, at different paces. So in a sense, we are very familiar to what a consistent pulse is. Now, this is the first piece of information that for some might be obvious, but it is actually very inspiring in a sense, because on the left you see the average heart rates for human beings, from childs to adults, children to adults, and then including athletes. And you see that the slowest is 40, and the highest and the fastest is 180 BPM. BPM, of course, is beats per minute. So this tells us already that even without knowing nothing about seconds and BPMs, this tells us that we have a feeling of what is fast and what is slow. just by being human being, we know, we feel what is fast and slow. And on the right, you see tempo markings, Italian and translated in English, and their relative, beats per minute. And you'll see a very similar, range from around 40 to around 200. So you realize that what we think as a slow pulse, a slow pace or a fast pace is pretty much, or it could be at least, we can argue, it's very much attached to this human sense, this human feel. It's a very human perspective. There's nothing mathematical really here. Um, so let's do some practice. For example, the idea is figure out if we can actually verify this notion, and I'm gonna try with a metronome and not telling you what speed is that. So let's first say whether we feel it's fast, medium, or slow. What do you think? How does it feel? Does it feel like a fast pace, a medium pace, a slow pace? Please, you can write in the chat. Let's see. Let me see. Okay. Slow, medium, medium, slow, medium, medium, medium. Yes, so it does seem that the majority is going for a medium. And then let's say that we are in a medium. Would you say out of these four, moderato, andante, andantino, allegretto, would you say that is moderate, or is moderately slow, or a little quicker than andante, or moderately quick? So it's towards the fast or towards the slow? What do you think? Andante, andantino, moderato. Moderato. Okay, quicker than andante, yes, moderato. So we are at the, I would agree. According to the first responders here, we are towards the lowest part of medium, somewhere between moderato and andante. So if we look at this side, then we have between 76 and 110 or 115. As a matter of fact, I'm counting 80. So we are full moderate walking speed, andante. Okay, so this is just we kind of agree on what medium and slow. Of course, we're not agreeing precisely on exactly what's the tempo here, but we have a feel. Let's try another one. Let's try this. Of course, this is a bit faster. The question is it still among the medium, or are we in this area, in the fast? So we are fast, yes, sure, allegro, medium fast, allegro, 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 allegretto, still andante, okay. Yes, so for some it's still andante, but the majority sees that as an allegro in this area. As a matter of fact, this area is going from 120 up. So let's say probably the average of us will put this between, let's say, 110 and 130. Guess what? 120. 120. So this is just to say we do share the same feel of what is it. And this is a very restricted range of speeds between 40 and 180 or 200. This is quite a good information, because when we think, oh, we're gonna need, we need to know how to play in tempo. Well, not any tempo. There is just a certain specific range at which we can relate naturally. Okay, so we are off to the first definition. What is tempo? Tempo is the resultant between a pulse and what we intuitively think is fast versus slow. We all know it. We know it. It's no news here. I'm pretty sure you all knew what was it. But we need to remember that this is just one dimension. Okay, let's keep that in mind. Let's move on. Now, an even pulse needs grouping. What what does it mean? It means that unless I group these bits in some sort of way, uh, I will never be able to determine whether this is a 2 bits based, a 3 bits based, or a 4 bits based. I have no way to know that. So the question is, what defines a bar? At school, they tell us, well, a bar is the number of bits within, the number of, a bar is defined by the number of bits within, between one bar line and the other. Sure, okay, but what's in a bar? Accents. So, as a matter of fact, this 4/4 won't sound 4/4 at all until I create accents. So 4/4 is not defined by 4 bits. 4/4 is defined by differentiation in these accents. So we have we have only pretty much 3 types of accenting. We have 2 types of accenting, like 2 bits, 3 bits, or 4 bits. Notice that these are the time signature that have 2 bits and they share something in common. Let's forget about the numbers here. Let's just look at the type of accents. We have a forte and a piano, a forte and a piano. The alternation, the repetition of this creates the sense of a 2. In this 3 bits, we have an alternation of 3 different accents, and they're all different. Some might argue that the third accent is not a mezzo forte or a piano, but regardless, every 3 accents we have a forte, and this creates a ternary, let's say a ternary meter. And in this last case, the one that we just saw is 4 bits based, in which a sequence of 4 heterogeneous accents repeat themselves. It's pretty obvious, right? Okay. Notice that music happens, as I was saying earlier, when you have a cyclical repetition of these accents, like in this way. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So the cycle of accents create a time signature. So next definition, time signature. A time signature is a tool that helps us organizing accents. Once we find a group of accents that can be organized in a musical way, and they repeat in a cycle, maintaining the musicality, then there we go. Here's the emergence of a time signature. You see, we are defining things by just having very, very ground concepts. We're not relating to an idea of seconds, minutes, or anything. Okay, now we have, as we see, we only 3 types of time signatures: binary, 2 bits; ternary, 3 bits; quaternary, 4 bits. Simple as that. First, conclusion. The ground dimension of musical time involves 2 factors: how fast is the pulse and how accents are organized, none of which requires an understanding of time, seconds, minutes. So tempo and time signatures are both related to whether we have a heartbeat and we feel what's fast and slow, and whether we can count until 4, pretty much. Can we all count until 4? I'm sure. All right, off to some practice. You ready? Okay, let's listen to something and figure out if we can um, and see if we can figure out the how fast is it and how many pulses we have, etc. So, what's the pulse? Some think is that. Some think is that. So how many of you think is the slow one? How many of you think is the fast one? This is the slow. This is the fast. Okay. I would say that there is no definite answer to that, because in a sense, it really, it's really a subjective way in which we feel it. If we feel it slow or we feel it fast, there is more to that, obviously. If we were to count it slow like that, it's probably in 2. And 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. If you think it in 4, if you think it's fast, it's probably in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So now if we are between 2 and 4. Okay, now we need to decide if it's 2, it's probably a medium slow. But if it's 4, it's probably a fast. If I were the composer of this, I would probably set the music in 4/4, but in cut time, in 2/2, which means what you will see is 4 small beats, but what you feel is 2. As a matter of fact, it's possible that the accompaniment of this music is more fast and bright, kind of a folk dance that you can even dance exactly. But the melody of the singer, no, in this case, so charming, is slower, is more linear and andante. So they coexist. So these two separate tempo coexist. So okay, let's do another example. This one, yes, another. Okay, this one. You can count it as very slow, like that, or a bit faster. Right? Which one thinks? How many of you thinks that this is the slowest, and how many thinks it's fast? Some people live for the power, yeah. Some people live just to play the game. This is more challenging here. Some say fast, some say slow. Yeah, it's quite difficult, because think about it. You can say it's a free, and that would be kind of a allegretto in free, medium fast, probably even towards the fast side, allegro. And some will say, some hear the slow pace, 1, the 2, and the 1, and the 2. This is another example where things are more complicated, or simply just there are many layers stacked upon each other, which might be one of the reasons why this song is so beautiful and we love it. So of course, if it's a 2, it's a very slow. As a matter of fact, if you were to dance it with your partner on this one, you would have a slow dance, very romantic slow dance. But if you are to play it, you probably have to be able to play quickly. So it could be, let's say, 6/8. Someone has pointed at that. It could be 2 bits based. Then it could be 6/4, also 2 bits based, or it could be a fast 3/4. We will look at that into a minute. I mean, we will decide on the numbers later on. Now it's important just to make distinctions between the pulse and the grouping. Okay, let's go on. So where are we? Okay, here. Why doesn't it work? All right. Okay, now we need a more refined look because the information we have so far don't allow to be super precise yet into defining time signature. So what we learned so far is that the bit can be consistent, but we can divide it into 2 or into 3. Simple as that. If we have, let me change my metronome here. All right. So you can divide your bit in 2 or in 3. And if you divide it in 2, it will be 1 and 1 and 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. If you divide it in 3, it will be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Can you all do that instinctively? Simply move from one to the next. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. For some, I'm sure it's super basic. But in music, when it happens when we play, sometimes it's quite challenging to move smoothly from one to the next. So if you divide your bit in 2, depending if you have a crotchet based, then you have this type of time signatures. Notice that there are only 3 available: binary, ternary, quaternary. If you divide also your bit in 2, you can see, you can divide bit into crotchets, and you have this type of time signatures. Once again, binary, ternary, quaternary. The difference is, as you notice, only on the bottom number, whether the bit is a quarter note or a minimum. So if you divide your bit in 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and the bit is a quaver, there we go. You have this type of time signature. 2-bit based binary, ternary, 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 1 and the 2 and the 3, or quaternary, 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the... Is it clear? Same thing happens if the subdivisions you're thinking are not quavers but crotchets, although I really haven't found that many times this type of time signature. So why this is so confusing? I'm sure some of you are like, well, Alberto, I'm kind of get lost here. Why is this confusing? Because some time signature tell you the number of bits in a cycle. This is what we have learned at school, and that bars can have 2 bits, 3 bits, 4 bits, or 2 bits. But some other time signature tell you the number of subdivisions. This is why it's confusing. 6/8 is 2 bits based, exactly like that. 9 is 3 bits based, exactly like that. And 12 is 4 bits based, exactly like that. Okay, so yes, I see someone has a hand up, and I wonder if there is a question. If you could maybe write your question in the chat, and I'll get back to you. So we arrived to a second conclusion, that the time signature describe the musical nature of your bar, which is the way accents are organized, and also tells you how to subdivide its pulse. It could be subdivided in 2 or in 3. So, which leads us to the third conclusion, that as a musician, you need to be familiar with the basic variants. So what are the basic variants? There are not many. The next chart will give you clarity over that once and for all. here we go. Here are the six variants that you need to know and that you need to be able to move from. And they kind of represent, I would say, in my experience, they represent possibly 80-90% of all the music that is there. And if you somehow are able to connect them and move from one to the next and understand what's behind, which is pretty much what we have looked so far, you kind of understand how time signature works. So as we've seen, time signature are either binary, ternary, or quaternary. And the next level is how is the bit subdivided in 2 or in 3? The resultant is 6 variants. They are easy and effective. So, for example, let's say that you are in a binary time signature 1, 2, and you subdivide it in 2. You have 1 and 2, 1 and 2. What could be a musical example for that? Mozart, Turkish March. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, right? How about the same binary 1, 2, 1, 2, but in subdivided in 3? What do we have as a musical example? We have Elvis, Can't Help Fall in Love. We have 1 and the 2 and the 1 and the 2 and the 1. Right? 1 and the 2 and the 1 and the 2 and the 1. Now we have ternary subdivision, ternary meter. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. What happens if we subdivided each beat in 2? What do we find? Johann Strauss, the Blue Danube. Here we go, an example. So every waltz follows this principle. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. Now we are off to a ternary with each beat subdivided in 3. The example is Cat Steven, Morning Has Broken. So we are 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 1 and the 2 and the 3. Sorry. This is a song that I'm not so familiar with. Yeah, right. Right? 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and so you see how this matches. Now let's go on to 4/4. We have 4 beats, each one subdivided in 2. This is probably the most common time signature ever. As a matter of fact, we find Bohemian Rhapsody. Right? And for 12/8, what do we have? We have Memory, song that for some reason enrages me. I know Andrew Lloyd Webber is master, is genius. I have so much respect, and and his music I love. Some of those are just in my heart. For some reason, Memory, I don't know, for some it really enrages me. Anyway, it's 12/8. Is 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 1 and the 2. So this is just a good chart that somehow manages to present the 6 main ways of counting music. And this is, as I said, these 6 ones are the ones that we encounter the most. Now let me So someone says a cat is an inflated musical. To be fair, so I would agree with you. Yes. So Sam asks, what about free eight time? Yes, it's a fair point. Free eight time. Free eight time is a ternary. There are 3 beats in a bar, and each one is subdivided in 2. So ternary, because there are of course three beats, and since each beat is an eighth, this eighth note, this quaver, can be subdivided into semiquavers. I didn't put it in here, not because it doesn't match this description, simply because it's less common to find. For example, for release is in 3/8. So this will be like that, exactly like in this category, ternary subdivided in 2. The reason why I didn't put it in here is simply because it's less common to find, but there are many more time signatures that match this scheme, but they are simply less common. All right, let's move on. So let's practice now. I'm going to play something and then ask you to find the ground pulse. So how about this one? So Sam already goes into a time signature. That will be the end answer, but we can sense that this is the ground pulse. Now the question is, how many beats do we have before a cycle restarts? Is it 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, or 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, I agree. It's 4 beats per cycle. Of course, this is not a precise science. We feel it. Some feel 4 very clearly, some feel 2. And there are reasons why I believe it's 4 is because the harmony changes every 4 beats. That would be my main explanation. But if I were to find this in 6/8 or in 2 beats, I wouldn't consider that a mistake. Now, we found what's the pulse, we found how many beats per bar, and now how is the beat subdivided? In 2 or 3? There we go. Here it is. And 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay? That's clear to everyone. And here we go. We can answer all these questions. Now, let's do some more example, and we can follow. Let's do another example, and then we have a little bit of time. This one, I'm sure not many of you know this one. This is jazz, instrumental jazz. This is the Ed Jones Benson trio. Okay, we need to answer the usual questions. Yes, Leonard. Yes, Ed Jones Benson, exactly. Once you found the pulse, it's probably this one. How many beats do we have before a cycle starts? It's a slow pulse. 4, 4. I would agree. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, This is a very slow 4/4. A wonderful piece of music. Okay. And now, how is the bit subdivided? Subdivided in 2 or 3? Exactly, subdivided in 2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so this is a very slow 4/4. See where are we getting? By the way, I forgot to mention that all these examples are simply coming from a playlist that I made called Time Signature Challenge, and this is something that I recommend every one of you, even the most experienced of you. You just listen to it and try to come up with the right time signature. My strong suggestion is, if you don't really know how to do it, you can follow uh, this these charts. Here we go. That's the definitive chart. Also, we find time signatures that were missing earlier. So let's go in order. First, we need to find the ground pulse, and even that can be a matter of opinion, or a matter of subjective opinion. Once we've found the pulse, we need to identify how many beats constitute a cycle, and there are not many options, to be fair. And once we identify the number of beats, we just simply need to identify the subdivision. So this is what we got. And to be even more fair, there are a lot of these time signatures that I never encountered in my life. Never. I don't think I can recall of any piece in 12/4 ever seen ever. Or even in 12/16. I don't know. If someone knows, please let me know. Or 6/16. I never seen anything in 6/16. So please take a snapshot of this, or find a way to keep it available, because this can be very useful. Okay, now we are going to the most practical part of this seminar, which is how to make things better in your playing. Yes, the metronome is your friend, despite everyone hates it, but is your friend. And yes, if you give it some love, you'll get that returned. So the metronome does help you develop the various layers of tempo that we've seen today. Okay, so what are the layers of tempo that we've seen today? We've seen at least 3 of them. We saw the pulse, the tempo, and the time signature, or the relationship between meter and subdivision. So let's say that if you put the metronome on a pulse, you can simply focus on developing your ability to group that pulse into different ways. For example, let's say that I am going at the piano right now. This is the metronome. I want to improvise in 4 beats. Now in 3. Now in 2. Right? So this would be a good exercise that develops your ability to count beats. Now let me stop and go on to the next one, which is let's say that your metronome is already giving you a meter, let's say in 2 or 3 or 4. For example, I'm going to set the metronome in 3. Right? It's a good opportunity to practice your subdivisions. So you can, for example, practice subdividing in 2. down a bit and let's practice subdivision in 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Slow down a bit more. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Right? So this is a good way to use the metronome, not just to keep yourself in line, but to develop your ability to play subdivisions. Now, next we have, of course, what we all aim at: the ability to have the pulse internalized. What does it mean to internalize the pulse? Internalize the pulse means that you are able to be your own metronome, and this is something that you get to. This is a goal. This is something that none really has. So you can do that, for example, without the metronome. While you listen to a song, have you ever tried to, just for the sake of exercising, how about you just snap your finger on beat 1, for example? This is jazz. Easy. Or for some, I'm sure it's easy to get lost when things are so fast. Or you can start identifying other beats of the bar and snap along. For example, beat 3. That's much harder. How about beat 2? That's very hard. That's very hard. I need to practice that. Okay, so you can also, of course, as you play, as you listen to something, you can try to figure out what are the subdivisions, as if your song that you're listening is a metronome, and you try to follow along and identify the subdivisions. Also, as you walk, as you chill, as you sing under the shower, as you hum a song, try to engage into creating your own metronome. Try to figure this forces you to figure out how that melody that you're thinking, or the song that you are humming, is set in tempo. A musician does that, translates sounds that are coming in your head, translating them into an actual framework. Okay, of course, internalizing a tempo with the metronome. There's a few suggestions here. So you can set a tempo and just get comfortable with it. Just set it up, improvise with it, play everything that you know in the tempo. If it's too fast or too slow, make it sure that you feel comfortable with it. If you feel too comfortable with it, that means that you know it well. You should go on to something that is less comfortable. Other things that I went a bit crazy in my jazzy years, and I was trying to really master this internalization of pulse. And one way to do it is have the metronome playing other beats. For example, I'm gonna give you a quick example. So this is 4/4. Okay. So let's say that this is a 4/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But let's say that I want these beats to be, instead of 1 and 3, I want them 2 and 4. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. not easy to do. Not easy to do. Get some practice around it. Also, set your metronome on the best accent, which is very similar to what I just did. Depending on the music, depending on your style of the song that you're playing, the best accent might not be beat one. For example, for swing, for jazz and swing, the second and four is usually the best. For a free four, if you're playing in a free four, why instead of playing the first one of the bar, why don't you play on the third one of the bar? So, for example, this is 3/4. On the first one, it would be like that. Right? It would be like that. But if I put that beat on the second beat, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? That's really not easy stuff, but you are once again internalizing the pulse. Okay, take a snapshot of this, and we're gonna have to wrap it up. There are. I want to give a few minutes for final questions if there are. And so please do take a snapshot of that, and I'm afraid I'm not gonna be able to look at the next, although you can also take a snapshot of it, which is a good practice guide. So all right, I'm gonna answer questions if you have. Let me have a look at the chat. The last question that I see is from David that says, what about funk? Where does that accent? Well, funk is interesting because typically is in 4/4 and you have either, let's say, usually it's on a medium fast tempo. I would say that generally speaking, funk is characterized by being on downbeats. So the ability to make sure that downbeat is funk is actually clearly, say, expressively the ability to make sure that we feel the downbeat as downbeat. And how to do that? We need to play around the downbeat. So, for example, so if this is a bit fast, let's slow down because it doesn't sound funk at all to me. Let's do that, yeah. So if we subdivide this in 2 or even in 4, we have ta 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 ta. So funk is a typical example of something that is straightforward, but is hard to render. Properly. The downbeat is actually something that if you can play around the downbeat, that will enhance the power of the downbeat. Let me see if I have other question around. I don't see any. So, Kate.
Hi.
Hi. I finished. Do you have any questions or anything that you want to say?
No, I think I'll make sure that I send that the list round, the playlist round. And maybe I can also just get a couple of these snaps from you as well, just to load onto the portal. But of course, you know, this will be available for you guys to download and to watch later on today. And yeah, don't forget to check out Alberto's latest couple of offerings with his Chopin album and the Scarlatti album. And also his original works, amazing. Always on my playlist. So
Thank you. Very, very sweet. Yes, it's about time you listen to my last album if you haven't yet.
perfect.
Okay. All right. All right.
Thank you so much,
Thank
and everybody have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Yes. Have a great day, everyone. Ciao. Bye bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.